Hello and welcome to this video. I am currently on retreat with Craig Holiday. So don't tell anyone that I'm creating content. Just kidding. It's been a great retreat so far. And one of the questions in particular was all about coming back into the Hara. And living from there. And it was so relevant to me and my life, and was such a illuminating discussion in the sense that it revealed to me how much I don't live from my Hara, how much I don't live from my power centers, from my lower chakra centers, and how kind of I'm really airy, and hence, I'm always traveling, I'm always in a car, I'm always on the move. And there's nothing wrong with this. And in some deeper senses, this is how the divine is choosing to unravel me through travel. This is something I've always wanted to do. I was very caged in, I was very controlled, I was very protected as a child, in a sense. And I've always wanted to kind of burst free and just be free and do the travel thing on like at my soul level. My soul's always wanted to do this. So there is a lot of truth in the movement that's continuing to happen for me. Ever since I left Tennessee in October, because my car imploded and life just took me on this big grand adventure, that's what I've been doing. And even before Tennessee, I was in Europe, I was in Mexico, I was still doing lots of road trips. But I had that block of time in Tennessee for like 7 months where I was staying put, right? And I went back to Tennessee very recently with that same intention. Like, I want to stay put here. I want to root in. I want to ground. It's hard to do this kind of work. I mean, when you're always traveling, you can do the creation part of it pretty well, kind of. I mean, you're usually pretty tired, but you can do that. But actually being this stable, safe space that's sturdy and that can hold space for others, to do healing work, it gets a little more complicated and it's a little more difficult and it's not ideal. When I was really rooted, that was the part I appreciated about it. Was I was in more of an ideal type of circumstance to do this work. And ultimately, this is what I love to do the most, at the deepest level, like holding space for others, meeting them at their depth, walking them through how to heal their trauma, just holding a loving space for others, a safe space for others. At my deepest level, that's what I enjoy doing the most. That's what's most fulfilling for me. But I can feel how all of the traveling is actually helping me, is cultivating more space for me to do that in the long run. I'm going to do this work for the rest of my life. And I'm only in my 30s now. So I can intuit how the divine is pulling me from place to place to really empty me out, to really take me through the experiences that are going to cultivate strength, that are going to cultivate the trust in the unknown, that are going to bring up fear, that are going to bring up resistance, aversion, desire. I'm noticing how the traveling, even though my work has had to take a big back seat in a sense, I'm basically given enough work to just keep traveling, right? Like, that's like what tends to happen. So I'm noticing that even though my work is having to take a back seat in the sense of holding space for others, that this is still related to that type of work, the traveling, and that it's how it's helping liberate me, and the lessons that I'm learning from this that I'll always have in my field to share with others when work does become more of a priority. And I'm really feeling in my soul, I'm moving towards that, and I really want that. I want to connect to work being the number one priority again in my life. I want to be rooted somewhere. But it will happen on the divine's timing. And I keep learning that in a very intense way too. Like I told many of you on the Patreon channel, I was really trying to be committed to staying where I was at my last place. Even though it wasn't ideal, I didn't really like it much. I was really going to just try to like plant the flag there. But one thing after another happened. And I don't want to go in too much into story about it, but just my direct experience of it was the divine, like my body literally would not stay there. And I kept feeling into it. Is this trauma? Is this divine guidance? And is it some of both? And at the end of the day, it's just like things were happening in such a way every time I would try to root down in the last 10 months that it just is like felt impossible. That the divine is just kind of saying, not yet, not yet. It's like I'm having to surrender my egoic efforting to make my life look the way I think it should based on maybe other people's perspectives and opinions, based on my own conditioning, based on what I think would be the easiest and best for me. I've had to surrender so much of that. I've had to surrender the idea of I should live here and do this, or I should be with this person. My trajectory for my career and work should look this way. I've had to really let go of all of that and give it really all to the divine. And it's been difficult at times. It's been really frustrating a lot. And so what this retreat has helped me with the most is just recognizing how in all of these circumstances, how through all of this travel, it's really leading me, it's guiding me to live more in the lower centers of my body. Because I am very airy. I have air signs, my astrology, I have a wide open crown chakra, my third eye is very open and usually pretty clear. Obviously the throat's pretty open, the heart tends to be mostly open unless I'm really going through something heavy. But it's like I can feel my gut right now. Lots of resistance, lots of fear, lots of tightness, lots of contraction. And in the hara and down into the roots. And how the traveling is really working that stuff out and it's bringing it up. And also, obviously, life is a reflection. The external and the internal are one. The more I'm rooted in my body, the more I'll have that sense of rootedness on earth. And it doesn't necessarily mean I'll live in the same place for the next 30 years or something, but it means I will, even if I am on the move, I will still have this feeling of home, of safety, of stability. And so, yeah, I just wanted to hop on and kind of let you all know what retreat is bringing up for me. And it's just this deeper commitment to stay in the hara, to keep awareness in the gut. And it's so beautiful when we do that. It just simplifies life because the emotional heart and the mind, they can go back and forth about one day they like someone, one day they don't, one day they like this place, the next day they don't, one day this is the right thing, that's the right thing, right? And it can be confusing and irritating and exhausting if we're constantly in identification with that movement. But when you drop down into the hara, all of that just falls away. And you realize, oh, that's just all nonsense. That's just all coming and going. None of that really stays here, as Craig was saying today. It's like none of that remains. It just comes and goes. But when you drop into the hara, you start to have this felt sense of what remains. And that's just the simple truth. And that's really life. It in its essence, it's just simple. It's just act on what you know is true. And I know when I'm in the emotional heart or the mind area and I'm feeling airy, sometimes I don't know what is true. Is this true? Is that true? This was true today. Why is this not true the next day, right? And I've been living from there too much. not to be hard on myself, but just this humble recognition that and it's okay, because there's been so much coming up. It's been really hard, and that's going to happen. But I can feel God asking and demanding of me, or bringing an offering to me actually in this retreat of, you can live more from your hara now. You can allow your life to be a lot simpler, a lot clearer, a lot more stable. And I feel when I'm in this retreat, as I'm coming down into my hara, like I said, all of this stuff just kind of dispersing, and just realizing I don't have to actually give any of it my attention. It's just come, like I said, it's just arising and then falling away. And too often, I think we get kind of attached to this stuff, and we start believing it, we start going into identification with it, and we just kind of spin from there. And our lives can just kind of loop, and we'll just loop with that stuff. But when you're in the hara, it's just like you make this straight line. You're like living this straight line, and you're walking directly to truth, with the truth. Yeah, I hope that made sense. I'm feeling pretty stoned on the retreat energies right now. And it's welcome. And before I shot this video, my ego didn't want to. I was like, oh, I'm too tired. Maybe the retreat container doesn't want me to share. But then I sat down and I told myself, don't create the video with your ego. Your ego doesn't have to do anything. Your ego's lethargic nature, that doesn't have to do it. I sat down and I said, I'm just going to see if the divine will shoot this video, if the divine will speak through me. And about a minute or two into the video, I started to feel like the divine grace of this Craig holiday retreat that I'm on start descending into the video, into my vessel. And this video became very energized and effortless. And that's when I realized, like, no, the energies of the retreat want me to share. Because in sharing, I bring this, I start to reaffirm this in my own body. I start to integrate the lessons I'm learning here in my own field. So I hope some of this that came through might have been resonant or helpful with you guys. I'm just sending you all so much love and peace, and I look forward to connecting again in the next video. Namaste.